Okay, I think we're live. So, hi everyone, welcome to Overdose and Chill. I'm Jodi, I'm the Managing Director for Overdose New Zealand, and I'm super excited to say that we've got Nick Lyford from Rembrandt on Chill with us today. So, hey Nick, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. So, you're based in Wellington, right? Down in the bottom of the North Island in New Zealand?
Exactly, that's where we are, windy Wellington, although it's a bit overcast today, which is pretty standard for us, to be honest. But it's really good.
Yeah, it's cool. Hey, well, look, thanks for joining. Just a quick shout out for the audience. If you have any comments or any questions through Chill, then just put them into the comments section, and we can ask Nick along the way. But today we're just going to have a bit of a chat about Rembrandt. You're going to tell us a little bit about the brand, about the digital journey, and just have a really good kind of overview about what's coming up for the future. So, who is Rembrandt? Nick, do you want to talk to us a little bit about the brand and who you guys are?
Yeah, sure. So Rembradt, for those of you who don't know us, we are a menswear brand based here in Wellington, New Zealand. And we've got, that's where our headquarters is based, and we've got about 11 stores across New Zealand, a couple over in Australia. And we started out back in, I think it's 75 years this year actually, as a tailor, making structured product, which is the suits and the overcoats of the world. And since then, we've gone from a manufacturer, so making product for a lot of other brands and a lot of other businesses, to a brand as of about 15 years ago, as I said before, having our own brand, our own stores, and that's been a journey of itself, as I'm sure we'll talk about very shortly, of getting in the online world and the retail space and just developing a brand on our own feet, which has been a pretty exciting one, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's cool. And I guess you've got quite an affiliation with the brand, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, so I've joined the business officially about 6-7 months ago, at the end of last year. But the family's been involved with the business for, I would say, about 40 odd years. Granddad's been involved. He joined in the mid-70s, and my old man, he's involved in the business as well, and is running the day-to-day operations of things at the moment. And he's been here for, I don't know, a long time. And so it's really, joining a family business has its many challenges, but also it's a pretty cool, exciting opportunity to step in and see what I can add to things.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it's awesome being part of, that whole family environment. It's great. And you can see that when you're, down in the office with you guys. It's a, great synergy between everyone. But you've just come back from, or not kind of recently come back from overseas. You've got a little bit of a kind of a European, I guess, flavor. So where did you come from? You've come from digital?
I came from a digital background. So I've, as I said before, came back into the country end of last year. Did my 2 weeks of quarantine just before Christmas, which was an experience. Yeah. And then before that, I had 3 years in Stockholm, Sweden, which was, I think, the Swedes and Stockholm have a pretty awesome reputation to us, over down this part of the world, but to the rest of the world, of course, as well. And in the big tech scene over there, so we were sort of the likes of Spotify, the climbers of the world, that was their head base. And I worked at a business called Fishbrain. For those of you who don't know, it's the mobile phone application for people who love fishing, and it's very much a Strava, Instagram of the world of people who hook, line, sinker is sort of their part of their lingo. So I was there running the sort of launch of our e-commerce platform back in 2019. And then also played a good part in what we call product marketing, which is, as you launch new features on the apps and on the web platforms, how are they going to be adopted? How are they going to be introduced to both existing users and new users? And how are we going to communicate the value and sort of launch new initiatives that will sometimes take 3 to 6 months to build, to launch into the world, to make sure that they're adopted as we expect. Often your intuition isn't as expected. So it's really, really fast-paced environment that had a lot of fun and met a lot of awesome people and great businesses as well. So
yeah, that's awesome. And so what was it that brought you back? Was it coming to work within the family business? Is that what brought you back?
I think there were a few. 3 years. I'd done my 3 years there, which was I really enjoyed my time at Fishbrain. I still miss those guys and the experience that I had with them. But I think the job was the one that brought me back. It was an opportunity to step up into a managing role, leading a brand, and being involved in the sort of senior leadership team of the business, which is not many opportunities like that come up. So that was sort of the main core reason. And then I think it's every 3 or so years it's quite nice to shake things up and change, and it's nice when you're in control of that, as opposed to last year when a lot of us were not in control of change and not in control of things that just sort of happened. So and then of course COVID sort of was a nice wee push to come back home, and it looked pretty exciting to come back home to a place like Wellington, New Zealand, versus the rest of the world then. So that was just a number of reasons really.
Yeah, that's cool. And I guess with looking at the like the upweighting of digital, especially within Rembrandt, it's probably really timely for you to get back and get stuck into that role. So you've taken on the marketing and digital manager role there. So I guess thinking about Rembrandt's foray into digital a few years ago, I think it was 2013 when the business started trading online, and to where where you guys are now. What's that journey been like? How have you evolved? And I guess how has everything been going for you in that space?
I think it's been a mix, many sort of learning curves and many different sort of ups and downs. But so we launched in 2013 to sell online, and back then I think to where we are now in terms of our product offering has changed a lot. So we've come from a very suiting background. As we said, we started as a tailor, and that has its own challenges selling selling that sort of product anyway. With making sure it fits properly and making sure it is sort of perfect for the customer. And when it comes to online, you don't have that sort of customer service sort of level of service that we provide. We take a lot of care in providing. So removing that has had a lot of challenges in terms of how do you replicate that in-store customer sort of service, going the extra mile to make sure the product fits. And online is a real challenge. So that's been one of the big sort of challenges. And I would say, as our product offering has gone into more casual wear, the likes of knitwear, which I'm wearing today, chinos, sort of stretch cotton, things that have a bit more leeway, it's allowed us to be able to push more into that space. And I think it's really sort of complemented the structured product of the past, but it's also still a big core of our business today. And just adapt to that really. And I think it's just accepting that this is the way it is, and we're going to have to make sure it works for us. So
yeah, and I guess over the last sort of few months, have you had a little bit of a shift in the kind of product that you're ranging now? I guess it would have, like you say, it would have relaxed a little bit more and possibly outweighed the slightly more casual way. And I guess that that wear from day to night and potentially less suiting. I mean, how is that all sitting with you guys?
I think one thing around that whole, we use this term like work-life balance as a, we've traditionally seen those as quite separate things. You've got your work, you've got your life, and you sort of keep them quite separate, and it's about balancing the two. But I think over the last, wee while, and especially over last year, the work and the life have kind of entangled quite quickly, and last year sped that up a lot. And I think because of that, our product has to very much sort of mirror that, and it can't, especially for us, we're a brand that has had traditionally workwear, very product suits that very much fit the work style, work part of your life. And now that those two are sort of coming together and it's a bit more blended, we are having to make sure our product sort of reflects that and can be seen across the work and the life and everything in between. And we can't see them as separate parts of the range and part of marketing as it has been in the past.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I guess thinking back to when you guys first launched online and right back in that 2013 when you started trading, and where you are now, I guess, and especially the last sort of like year or so, what have you learned? Like, what are your biggest learnings, I guess, from foraying into online?
I think the big one is probably the biggest thing is probably that how it's changed so much, and that 2013 when we launched online is no comparison to 2021, and that something that worked in 2013 is probably not going to work now. And I think having so many years of experience in e-commerce is works and it's fantastic, but it's about having that very neutral lens over things, and that don't just say, oh, we've done that before. Okay, that was 5 years ago. The landscape's different now, so it might have worked, might not have worked. It's about trying again and having that neutral look on things. I would say that's the biggest learning for me personally, but also the brand. Times are changing, so.
Yeah, and I think you're right. That's something that you've said to me before, which is, don't be afraid to try new things. Just give it a go, even if you're not sure about it. Just give it a crack, just to see if it is that thing that I guess your customers are into. From that online journey. So I guess thinking about your customers, have they changed much over the last few years? Have they changed? And I guess how have they changed?
I think back to that point that I was saying about the work-life balance, I think that whole integration, I don't want to repeat myself again, but I think that has been a really big change, in that people don't treat those two lives separately, and they don't want their clothes to be treated separately either. They want to be able to flow between those different parts of their sort of day-to-day life, their weekend life. People don't want to be go home and have to take off their work gear because it's uncomfortable. We want our customers to feel like that, but also the customers want to feel like they can, continue. Their life is fluid, and we want their wardrobes to be like that too. So I think that's a big change for us, and just casual wear and that whole scene of having product that's nice, but also you can wear in other parts of the day. So that's a big change for us, and I think it's not just us exclusively; it's the whole world of men and women's retail.
Yeah, okay. And I guess from a store perspective, have you seen much change in terms of your customers in store? Are they spending more time online as well as in store? What's that kind of change that's happened there?
I think it definitely is. People are doing more research in that space. Like, people are coming into shop. Not everyone, but more and more people are coming into shop. They want to make sure that when they come into shop, they're making the best use of their time. They're not sort of lost, or they're not unsure about what's happening. They have a fair idea, especially with those more, the high ticket items, the suits and the jackets, overcoats. They've done their research. They've looked around, and the web and the social space is a big place where they do that. And many a times, people will be coming into shop with, have you got this in store? Have you got my size in that? Have you got this? And I think that's where we struggle to get that, the online sales of those structured suiting products. But it doesn't mean to say it's not working. It's just that the journey to purchase is just different from the likes of a cheap pair of chinos or a shirt or knitwear. It's just a different journey, and we need to accept that that's the way it is, and adapt to that.
Yeah. What is that journey though? So I guess from a suiting perspective, because you guys have got you can book an appointment for made to measure online, and then you get them in the store. So that's quite a nice synergy between getting the interaction on site and then getting someone into the store. So is that the ideal kind of journey? So you can get your hands on them, you can start to work with them in terms of measuring up a suit and getting a suit to fix. Is that the right kind of journey?
Yeah, I think there's always multiple journeys to that same outcome, and one of them is the one that does the research, that understands what they want and understands that, and then they might be someone who enjoys getting on the phone and picking up the phone and having a call with the person that's going to measure them up and take care of them. They could also be the person that just wants to get something in the diary, and put something in that they're organised, that the shop knows that they're arriving, or the other one is just turning up. And I think none of them are sort of the right or the wrong way. It's just being able to make sure that you cater to those different personality types. And these customers are people at the end of the day. They're not just transactions or not just lines on a spreadsheet. And as a brand, I think it's really important to acknowledge that there's no wrong way of that journey, and it's just about making sure that your brand is a bit more fluid and understanding of that, because at the end of the day, it's an outcome for them and the value for them that is the goal, and how they get there is there's in many different ways. So
Yeah.
I'm not if that answers your question, but there we go.
Yeah, it does. And it's interesting, I agree, because in terms of like clothing, especially suits, it's not one size fits all, right? There's a number of different shapes and sizes out there. There's different kinds of way that, guys want to wear their suits. So, in terms of that particular product, it's great that people can research it and have a look at the different styles and the different ways of wearing it and the different fits, and then come in store and have that, that kind of blended journey and blended experience all the way through. Have you, I guess, thinking about that in terms of, sort of last year or so, I guess in terms of your business, what changes have you made to your business in relation to how you talk with your customers, or how you, work with them on, say, things like fit or things like, style? You made many changes there?
I think a big one that last year's helped us sort of understand is just to really focus in on our core, focus in on what we do best, and not try to be everything for everyone. And that's been a big focus, I would say, the last definitely couple of years, but definitely the last 12 months is stay true to who you are and make sure that your customers understand that. And we're still on that journey of making sure that people understand our core and all of that. So that's been a really big one for the last 12 months. And I think a big one for us is that, as a brand, we want we think more people deserve sort of that deserve the ability to walk into a shop, walk out of a shop, and be able to feel like they have a great fitting product. And fit has been, it's our core, it's our history of a tailor. We've always had that as our foundation of the business. And as we've gone into new different categories of product, that has continued, and it's only sort of continuing more and more. Is we think more people deserve a better fitting product without the need for alterations or going down the made to measure route, that if they're a little bit taller or different or bigger or smaller rounder, that you should be able to get the best fitting product without compromise. So that's sort of a fundamental core thing that we're working on, and it's an ongoing journey. It will always be an ongoing journey, and it's been good fun. But this last 12 months has been a big journey of figuring all of that out and learning that, really. Yeah,
and I guess you guys have probably got like tons of information on your customers, right? To be able to tell you, I guess sizes, fits, that kind of thing. Do you find that you collect a lot of data and a lot of information from those customers who are buying suits, who are buying those slightly more, I guess, bespoke kind of pieces?
I think we definitely have that data available, and it is very, very important to help us with our size grids, or help us with product, or various other things as sort of times change and trends sort of goes in motions. But I think largely speaking, I don't think we're the only one, is that we could probably use that data in a lot better way. And at the moment, we haven't used that as sort of best as we could, but it's definitely it definitely helps us make decisions. And I think that's part of that digital journey that we're currently sort of going on, and with you guys and others at the moment, is how can we best use that to give the most value to our customer, the most sort of making that process faster and smoother and easier. So yes and no, that's probably the best one to go on.
Yeah, I get that. All right. And I guess, thinking about, because, obviously lots of businesses have had, lots of challenges over the last sort of, few months. And, there will still continue to be some challenges in the upcoming, few months. What that looks like, we're kind of not so sure. But I guess other than say, stock and bits and pieces, what else have you guys kind of overcome and kind of in terms of changes? And what have you learned? Like, what's been some of your biggest learnings?
I think over definitely the last 6 months, and we said it before, but that, how important digital is to that physical retail space. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if we do this best at the moment. And I think that's will be a focus, is how to joining those two worlds, how brands can bring those two worlds closer together and understand the digital journey and the physical retail store journey is, I mean, I would love to be able to connect those two worlds more and more in a better way. And I think that's definitely the challenge. But I think the last 6 months of just understanding how important that digital space is, and not that we didn't know that, but I think it's, you know, it's just been sort of fast forwarded so much far, you know, put us so much further ahead the last 12 months of where we were going anyway, is you know, that digital space playing its massive part in the physical world. So that's been a big one for us.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think you're right. I think it's you know, it's a matter of just giving it a go, and, you know, like you say, fast forwarding it, and you know, where perhaps you might have taken some time to do something when I like, this is a great thing, let's just move on with that, and you know, give it a crack and see if it works. Have you guys sort of, in terms of the way that you communicate with your customers and so your marketing, have you made any changes there that have been quite significant, or any, I guess, you know, learnings from that?
I mean, I think it's like, you know, like anything, you know, as the digital world has got better and better, we just want to make sure that the customers have more information in front of them before they come to the shop. So because that part of the digital space is becoming more integrated, and more people's journeys to the retail shop is and as basic as making sure that our photography and product and our product information is at a better standard. And I think that's an evolving journey when, you know, it takes time to get that level, and it's you know, it is a big investment. But I think that just getting that foundation, and you can't overlook the basics of very good quality photography and very good descriptions, and getting reviews on board, and just, you know, stripping things back, not trying to be, as I said, everything to everyone, is that that's been a big one for us. And I think for me anyway, the last 6 months of raising that foundation, because I think it will continue to give return.
So you were building out a photography studio in the warehouse, am I right?
Yes, we finished that off, I think it was about March.
Yeah.
March, April. We built out a photo studio, plastered it all up, got some new set of lighting, and just setting up that sort of how we're going to use things here for the next sort of few years, that we can do more in-house, more quality things in-house, to help us sort of scale our digital, but all of our sort of channels really.
Yeah, that gives you the flexibility, right? If you're able to do that quickly on site, and then you can quickly get that out into, you know, like get it into market and get into store. Yeah, and I guess you know, sort of like thinking about your future of Rembradt. I mean, there's been some change, lots of change over the years when you think about right back to the beginning when the brand first started, and I say even from the you know, obviously the way that people sold, but you know, the clothing that everyone was wearing. What do you think is the what do you think, what's coming up for the brand in the future? What's kind of changes? What can you share that's on the cards, I guess, is probably what I'm asking.
I sort of briefly touched on it just before, but I think that whole conversation around, you know, more people deserve better fitting clothes. And I think for so long our industry has been very much, you know, 5 sizes, the extra smalls to the extra larges, has very much done sort of a whole country, a whole world. And you know, customers are now becoming more tuned to clothes that fit and don't fit, and what that means to them, and that, you know, being slightly different is not, you know, that's just you know, part of the way we live at the moment. And I think brands, we want more people to be able to walk out of the shop and get a better fitting product. And we're starting on that journey, and we've always done it with our tailoring offering, having regular short and tall fitted jackets and suits. And it's about how do we bring that into other sort of products. But at the moment, it's about sort of staying true to that core message of more people deserve better fitting clothes.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, are you seeing when you think about your experience overseas and then back here, are you seeing much of a difference in the different markets in that space? Are you seeing that people overseas are, I guess, tailoring things to be more of a fit, or is that something that you guys are kind of pioneering over here?
I think it's definitely, you know, happening overseas, and it's definitely I think the luxury that we are in New Zealand is that the market isn't as saturated as the likes of, say, Stockholm, London, Berlin, those sort of tech sort of powerhouses of the business world in Europe. And I think so for that, it means that the standard has to be so much higher because the competition is that much more fierce. Whereas over here, there's not the same amount of competition, but it doesn't mean to say that it's tough competition and everyone's fighting for the same people. And I think it's just a lot more competition, which forces creativity, forces people to think differently, what do you call it, like poaching to find better people, really. And I think over there they've got that for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, I guess, in terms of the markets from just in general, so from where you've come to where we are now, what kind of things are you thinking are going to land on the New Zealand shores in the next sort of, 12-ish or so months? What can you see that's happening overseas that might feed its way through here?
I think one thing, and maybe not necessarily happening overseas, but again, bringing the retail and the digital space closer together, and that the data aligned around that, I think is one that is, I think Asia do a very good job of that, and they're getting more into that space. But I think as well as Europe. So that is one that I think is a big one. The other one, I think, that not necessarily sort of saying where I was in Europe are doing this, but I think the whole sort of currently what's happening with the whole security and the Apple side of things and taking away that data and information that us as marketers have been very privileged to have access to, and has been part of my career in the marketing space. That's starting to be removed, and doing the likes of retargeting campaigns on Facebook and Google, and doing things a bit more cleverly and smartly, for want of a better term, are being removed. And it's tough because it sort of puts a bit of pressure on what channels you use and how you measure your return. But sort of the other side of it, I've been thinking about this recently a little bit more, is that it's going to force us as creatives to be more creative. And I think not relying on those channels, those powerhouses or channels that have, the technology is incredibly smart and they've obviously driven a lot of revenue for brands. That's starting to sort of be removed, and it will always have its place, of course. But what next? And I think I don't know. I've started recently noticing a lot more digital-first brands advertise in the radio space and the TV commercial space, and which you never would have seen a few years ago. Whereas now they are, and I think that's sort of a result of some of these more traditional digital channels changing the game, and that to me is pretty exciting. So, and I'm just sort of asking myself, what does that mean for us? But what are other brands going to do that's going to be quite new and exciting and for the landscape?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And like you say, it's come along not quickly, but it's come along kind of quickly in that space. So it's forcing a lot of people to think differently, like you say, about how they operate, and also that use of the data within the business and what that means and how you use that for for marketing and for everything and how you run your business. That's cool. What advice would you give to anyone listening today when thinking about their kind of being online, being their journey? If they were moving into the online space, what advice would you personally give them?
I think there's one thing, and I think my managerial boss when I was at Fishbrain, Lisa, she always told me to never trust your intuition, essentially, or like what your gut is saying might not be right. And I know we say always trust your gut, but in the marketing world, we have the ability to test your gut and test that against things that you might think are not going to work, or the creative on Facebook that looks horrible, but it performs in one way or another. It might sort of challenge your brand, who you are, but might work in other ways. So I think my advice is always just run with things. You never really know until you know, and it's so easy to fall in the trap of it doesn't work, or tried it before, it doesn't work, or those sort of phrases are very easy to throw around. But don't trust your gut. Let's just see what happens and get it out the door. that would be my, yeah.
I agree. Just give it a go. See what happens. Like you say, test and learn. And if it's not great, if it's great, then just keep capitalizing on that. That's awesome. I've got one really last question for you, Nick. That photo that we found of you on Google, tell me, where did that come from?
Funny story. So I think it was at when I was at Fishbrain. We used to, when we started out, we would do we needed to do a photo shoot for management. I think it was management. And then after they had their photo shoot, we decided to jump in and take a whole bunch of photos for ourselves. And then, funnily enough, I think it's about every 6 months, every 12 months, we do the same thing and get a camera out, put up the backdrop, get some lighting, the backdrop up, and take a bunch of fun photos. So it's not much of a story, but it's quite a cool thing to do in the building anyway. Yeah.
So you'd be doing that with a Rembrandt team in your little photography.
We should actually. Yeah. No, we haven't, but I think that's a good idea. Maybe I'll see what they're up to next week.
That's awesome. Cool. Hey Nick, it's been so lovely to chat to you today. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the audience listening? Anything at all?
No, I think no. It's just keep doing what you guys are doing, and trust your gut, and don't trust your gut at the same time, and just push on and try new things. So yeah. Thank you. It's been really good, Jodi. Thank you.
No, it's been great to chat to you, and all the best. We're looking forward to seeing that next evolution of the Rembradt brand and those photographs that are going to come up. And yeah, really appreciate your time. And so hi to the team for me.
Cool. We'll do. Thank you.